But we continue. Because we're at the Tour de France and we've got to push through it. The situation is this. We've got a 13-rider breakaway, including Jordan Jegat, who is 11th in the general classification and is 38 minutes down, but is within 4 minutes of Ben O'Connor of Jayco AlUla, which is why in the peloton, around 2.5 minutes down the road from this leading 13, you've got Mauro Schmid in the Swiss national champions jersey trying to pace these guys, not necessarily back, but just holding the gap to ensure that Jordan Jegat does not backdoor a top 10 in the final stages of this Tour de France, quite literally. We've got just over 70 kilometres remaining in the day. We have had almost 2.5 hours in the saddle. And it has gone very, very quickly. It started off in overcast conditions, and then the heavens opened. But now the conditions are much better. The sun is in the air after some horrifying rain and slippery roads. We've not seen too many spills. Admittedly, a crash from Mauro Schmid when the road was dry, and a crash from Clément Champoussin, which looked really nasty when the road was drying. But other than that, not much has really happened on the crash front, which is a positive sign, of course. I haven't got race radio up yet, which is the first sleep-deprived mistake I've made. Only, 5 minutes into this stream, so what, again, could possibly go wrong for the remainder of this stage. Cool, I've got race radio now, which is fandabidozy. And our breakaway of 13 riders is this. Tim Wellens of UAE Team Emirates, Matteo Jorgensen of Visma Lease-A-Bike. So both the big teams are present. Soudal Quickstep, now Remco-less. We might get onto that during the stream. Have Pascal Incorn up there. Harry Sweeney of EF Easy Post, Romain Gregoire of Groupama FDJ, Kaden Groves of Alpecin Deceuninck, Matteo Trentin of Tudor, Ewan Costu of Arkea, Ivan Romeo of Movistar, Simone Velasco of Astana, and Jordan Jegat of TotalEnergies, with Frank Van Den Broek of Picnic PostNL and Jake Stewart of Israel Premier Tech, rounding off the 13 teams and the 13 riders that are present at the head of the race. So that's the situation all caught up, and we can get this stream properly underway. I am looking forward to the remainder of this stage because it has been on from kilometre zero. So many riders wanting to get involved in the breakaway. In the end, 13 riders have got there, but will they be able to make it to the line? We will find out in about 2 hours' time. 69.5 kilometres to go on my screen, and we are about to start this penultimate climb, categorised one at least, of the stage. The Côte d'Italie, category 2 label, 8.9% for 3.6 kilometres, with 5 points to be given out for the rider that goes over the top of the climb in first. Lenny Martinez, of course, not up here. But 69 kilometres remain. 2.5 minutes is the gap between the peloton and the breakaway, and Mauro Schmid, with Bull Bora-Hansgrohe riders on his wheel, is just trying to keep this gap low. The Maillot Vert group, Jonathan Milan, Arnaud Delis, and other sprinters in that group, they are 13 minutes behind the leading group, including Tim Wellens, who might be down for another Tour de France stage win. He has been finessing in this breakaway. So is Kaden Groves. But Tim Wellens looks well up for this stage. We're 2 kilometres away from the start of the climb, and it will rear up very quickly and very sharply, the Côte d'Italie, This was what the stage looks like as a whole. I might as well leave it like that, to be honest with you, because the first cycling map looks like it's struggling. Which, if I just flick that, we are using first cycling this time. We'll see if it works. We've had a brief rodeo with Pro Cycling Stats, and we might go back. But as of now, first cycling looks like it's recovered itself. Although it is a little bit further behind me, I'd rather see the instances myself than have it spoil for you guys on screen. But after the Côte d'Ivoire, there is no descent whatsoever. It's a flat section, then a brief false flat downhill, then up and down constantly until you get to the Côte de Longeville. The clouds are in the sky, but they look to have passed over for now. 25 degrees temperature in France right now, which is not bad at all. Certainly nowhere near the 10 degrees that we saw on the Col de la Loze and horrible rain. But with 66 kilometres remaining, onto the climb go the breakaway group. 3.6 kilometres, 8.9% on average. And the rider that is sitting at the back is the Belgian national champion's jersey of Tim Wellens. Made the move at around 40 kilometres to go on the stage that he won. Similar to Ben Healy. But those kilometres were majoritively downhill. And flat. He attacked at the highest point of the day, which would have been on the first climb. But Matteo Jorgensen is forcing the tempo in this breakaway group. Jorgensen leads, Matteo Trentin going on the right hand side, passing Matteo Jorgensen right now for the lead of the race. But it's all good being in the lead with 65.7 kilometres to go. You've got to be there when it matters. And Ivan Romeo at the moment has delivered on what he wanted. We'll head to interview clips from him in a brief while. But the Spanish national champion is present in this breakaway. The only national champion who is in this breakaway. Many nations represented. France, Italy, Spain, of course. Australia have 2 riders. Netherlands, USA, Belgium, and Great Britain all present in the breakaway. The Dutch with 2, the French with 3, 2 Italians and 2 Australians. But the peloton will soon be starting the climb, which means there may be scope for some teams to try it. Uno X, Lotto, Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe and Ineos Grenadiers are looking to position riders into what is a crucial turn before the Côte d'Ivoire. Around they head and Lotto win the battle for the front. Onto the climb they go, and all of the peloton look to be attacking this one. It is, by category, the hardest climb on the route. It is not the longest, but it certainly is steep. 8.9% average, the steepest on the route today. And it's Ineos Grenadiers that are pushing on. They've tried putting Tobias Foss into the breakaway. In the end, they've got nobody, and it's Axel Laurence making a move. Slotting onto the wheel is an Arkea B&B Hotels rider. They've already got Ewan Costu up the road, but it looks like Raul Garcia Pierna is attempting to follow the Axel Laurence move. Armoury has been distanced. Mauro Schmid was hanging on to the back after all the work he'd done for Ben O'Connor. But now, attacks have gone off the front, and no Mauro Schmid means no tempo in the peloton. EF Education Easy Post with Ben Healy, and I think that is Nielsen Paulus on the right-hand side of the road, but they're not making any inroads whatsoever, into the breakaway. It's Mathis Lebert, actually. It's not Pierna, who did a big ride, as did Ewan Costew for Kevin Vauquelin's GC yesterday. We will get to yesterday's discussion in a brief while. But Axel Laurence and Mathis Lebert in a French dual attack to try and get across to the break. Ineos may have left it a little too late, but Sam Watson, the British national champion, set it up. And we've seen the likes of Brent Van Moor get into a chasse patate during this stage, attempting to get across. But it's Axel Laurence that's triggered another offensive. And now the peloton's getting lined out. They've organised themselves, and riders are clearly not happy with the Laurence and Lebert move. They want to increase the tempo, and Tadej Pogacar is sat very much towards the front. Jonas Vingegaard too, as is Florian Lipowitz. Once again, all of the jerseys, bar Jonathan Milan, are locked together. Kaden Groves flicks his elbow. Breakaway will probably start to understand the race situation, with Laurence and Lebert now going up the road, and the updated interests of the peloton. It might force them to increase the tempo and work together a little more cooperatively, as Axel Laurence has decided to get rid of Mathis Lebert, who I think would have just sat on the wheel for as long as he possibly could, knowing that he had Ewan Costew up the road. So Axel Laurence has decided to ditch Lebert and go it alone. He's got 2 minutes and 15 seconds to close, which is a vast gap. As Jordan Jegat has gone for it at the front. So 2 French riders have gone on the attack from the peloton and from the breakaway. Jordan Jegat is away. Kaden Groves attempting to follow this at his own pace. But the TotalEnergies man has dropped every other rider in the breakaway. Dylan Turns of Cofidis is trying to get out of the peloton and has made it across to Mathis Lebert. So Cofidis starting to show themselves. They were a team that were clearly not happy that they missed the breakaway. But Turns does have a rider that he can work with from Tudor Pro Cycling. Lebert looks like he just cannot follow, and off goes Tom Schoyens in pursuit. More and more riders clipping off of the front of the peloton now, and this might not be done at all. We could have a seriously strong chase group attempting to bridge across to the leading 13, with Jordan Jegat at the front of this 13 rider group. So more riders clipping off, and it looks like everybody is happy with the attacks that have been made. So, more movements then, and the peloton comes to a stop. Mathis Lebert has Wout van Aert for company now, sinking through this group. TotalEnergies is trying to send another rider up the road. Van Aert there. Schoyens is also in the group. Dylan Turns is pacing his own efforts on the Côte de Tézy. So 2 incredibly strong Belgian Classics riders Other riders up there are Michael Woods, Alexandre Delettre is the TotalEnergies rider, Anders Harland Johannesson has also made this move, with Valentin Madouas and Warren Barguil. So this is a serious group that has gone up the road of 9 riders. If they all stay together, I fear that Lebert's going to be spat out of the back of those other 8 riders very shortly. But if they make it across to Axel Laurence, then this is a very strong group that could organise a coherent chase. You'd think Delettre, especially with team leader Jegat up the road, is not interested in pacing. He is gritting his teeth and trying to cling onto the wheel of Wout van Aert, using up his energy perhaps too early on the Côte de Tézy. Tom Schroens looks like he doesn't have it. He's losing positions hand over fist in this chase group. But Anders Johannesson is sticking to the wheel of Wout van Aert. Then comes Michael Woods. Then comes Dylan Teuns, and Delettre is sat 5th wheel. So Van Aert piling on the pressure. And it's a battle of who is the strongest that can follow. Tudor, of course, already have a rider in the group, in Matteo Trentin, in the chase, that is, now of Jordan Jegat. But they're looking to throw another rider up the road, and suddenly this race is coming alive once again. Jordan Jegat is attempting to go incredibly long on this, the penultimate climb of the day. He's got a long 60 kilometres in the saddle if he looks to win this stage, but Harry Sweeney has set off in pursuit for EF Education Easy Post. And for Jegat, he'll have a strong rider accompanying him in Sweeney, and Sweeney will know that Jegat is after GC positions as well. So both of these riders probably have something to pace for, and it's dangerous to let them both go and give them a gap of 20 seconds if the time gaps on the motorbikes are to be believed. Sweeney joins up with Jegat and may just fly past him to take some King of the Mountains points now. Jegat slops onto the wheel of Harry Sweeney. And the full-time YouTuber part-time cyclist looks like he's going to pocket 5 points over the summit. So, Sweeney, super capable flat rider. Jordan Jegat a bit more of a GC candidate, as we have seen across this Tour de France, are away at the front. Kaden Groves looking behind himself, hoping for a little bit of tempo. Jake Stewart is probably trying to disrupt relays as best he can, because Michael Woods is in the chase group trying to catch them. And a chase group that has been thinned to 5 because of Wout van Aert's pace. Meanwhile, more attacks go. Bahrain Victoria sending a rider up the road, as well as Groupama FDJ. Lenny Martinez and Guillaume Martin are those 2 riders, and Martinez flies past Mathis Lebert on this climb. So, Martinez attempting a bridge clearly wasn't best positioned then when the moves started to go. They had enough of time to move up, because the Mathis Lebert move came fairly far before Wout van Aert set off in pursuit. But Van Aert is a man on a mission right now. He's got 2 minutes and 26 seconds to close to Jegat and Sweeney at the front. And at the moment, he's doing it all himself. Alexandre Delettre looks like he's going through all of the steps of hell to try and stay on Wout van Aert's wheel, with Anders Harland Johannesson sat 3rd, looking a lot more in control, although starting to grimace. Van Aert looks behind himself, flicks his elbow, and Alexandre Delettre is suffering. So Anders Harland Johannesson says, "I'll take care of it, Alexandre." And to the front comes the Uno X man. Tom Schoen's now making it across, so Schoens has got a second wind and was just pacing himself on the climb. Michael Storer is trying to get across as well in Schoens' wheel. Elsewhere, Axel Laurence has just made it over the climb. And he has a Tudor rider for company, so Tudor trying to get 3 riders in the move. It's Mark Hirschi that is in the Van Aert group, and it is Michael Storer in with Axel Laurence. Lenny Martinez now coming over the climb. He looks to have missed the train that has set off from the station. He's not managed to hop on at the right time. Neither has Valentin Madoua, who is now in a group of 4. Sorry, Guillaume Martin. Israel Premier Tech trying to send a rider over. Looks like Chris Neylands maybe. So Israel Premier Tech looking to send a teammate up with Michael Woods. It's probably a good move for him to be in because there's not much descending that he has to do across this stage. But in the peloton, it goes back to calm. Jayco AlUla are going to be worried though that Jordan Jegat is now away at the front and will have to keep this gap passable for Jegat not to overtake their general classification leader Ben O'Connor on the road. 3 minutes 32 is the gap currently, with 59.8 kilometres to go. $59.4k to go then, and Harry Sweeney and Jordan Jegat are away at the front of the race. They've got 21 seconds on the chasing group with 2 minutes and 25 on the Wout van Aert Michael Woods attempt at a chase. The 4th group on the road, of course, because Michael Storer and Axel Laurence are somewhere in between those two. But let's have a brief chat about yesterday's stage, because it was a surprise winner, if you will. But first, Pogacar's view on yesterday's events. The yellow jersey finishing 3rd on the day, behind Jonas Vingegaard. Here is what he had to say at the end of yesterday's stage. We did a very good job until the last climb, and then some riders thought they could sprint for 19 kilometres of the climb. The pace was incredibly high at the start. I was thinking that maybe Jonas Vingegaard wanted to also win the stage, but then he was just holding on to my wheel and Timo Arensman went on a good attack. I decided not to follow, set my defensive rhythm that I felt comfortable with, and in the end it was like this. I'm just happy it's over. I had to pull the whole climb in the end. I came quite tired to the finish line, but it was also tough for the last 3 days. I'm happy today is over. I'm also cold. Jonas Vingegaard did not counter anything. We did all the work, I pulled all the climb, and that's the story. I was counting down the kilometres in the end. Of course, Arensman was super good. I was hoping that I could set a pace that I felt comfortable with. If somebody attacked from my wheel, then I could have easily still accelerated. That's why I had to go a certain pace, and in the end, Arensman went stronger, so chapeau to him. He was really strong, super good, and I had to set the rhythm. In the end, we're happy with how we rode today, and the mountains are done. We tried to go for the stage today because we felt strong, we were good as a team. In the end, some riders thought they could sprint from the bottom of the climb all the way to the top. We went full out, and then, all of a sudden, nobody wanted to pull. I attacked, and then I was thinking maybe Jonas and I could go to the top. Arensman was there, but then he attacked, and I tried to set a rhythm. Arensman was stronger on the day. I was counting down the kilometres because I was going with my pace, and hoping that nobody attacks from behind. That's it. Sometimes you just count the kilometres to the finish. And Pogacar doesn't sound like he's in the best mood. right now. He was questioned as to whether he was bored or, I've got an absolutely horrible ad in my ears right now. Tadej Pogacar was being questioned by the media as to whether he was bored of the race or tired of the race. And in all honesty, I get where he's coming from. Having no competition really at this Tour de France is to the detriment of himself, and he's a rider who loves to be competitive. But yeah, the way he's been riding as of late, and the way he's been talking especially, has indicated that he's starting to become a little bit disheartened with this race, which is a shame to see because he is usually incredibly bubbly and is a great character in the peloton, whether you like him or not, I guess. He is somebody who is usually so happy-go-lucky, and seeing him like this is super weird. So yeah, I get where he's coming from, and by the same token, I am not surprised that he feels this way, because now it must feel for him like these races are just a cakewalk, and he's just seeing it out all of the way to Paris, and that is what he's getting across in his interviews. But right now, this race has not been to his liking, because it has been on from kilometre zero. And, as I return to coverage right now, it's still Harry Sweeney and Jordan Jegat at the front. Ivan Romeo was towards the rear of the chase group in the Spanish national champions jersey, and Axel Laurence and Michael Storer have been caught by the remainder of the chase, which I'm now calling the Wout van Aert group. 4 minutes is now the gap from the breakaway to the peloton, and UAE Team Emirates have gone to the front. Tadej Pogacar mentioning that he wanted to get to Paris, and he's going to try and get there as soon as possible by the looks of things, because he sent a couple of teammates forward in this peloton. Kaden Groves, a rider who I've seen at the front of this group pretty constantly as of late for Alpecin Deceuninck, is still on the front of the chase. Tim Wellens, though, is getting involved, sat third wheel, just behind Romain Gregoire, who is about to take over. Through a section filled with Swannies, and Matteo Trentin takes a water bottle. He will be aware, I'm sure, that he's got two teammates in a group behind him, and two very capable teammates when the road goes uphill. Trentin has a sprint on him, hasn't really had to use it for a while, having been on UAE Team Emirates in the service of the likes of Tadej Pogacar and other riders on that team, and not really getting his own chances, as Harry Sweeney is not happy with Jordan Jegat, and in the end decides to go it alone. So Sweeney, disenfranchised by Jordan Jegat's movements in this breakaway, has decided to attack away. Sweeney remonstrating with Jegat, and in the end will go it alone. It feels like Sweeney's committed when he moved to try and catch Jegat, and now that Jegat is not pulling him any turns, which I'm surprised about because he looks like he's riding himself into the top 10 on GC. Sweeney has decided to attack the race on his own. So, EF Education Easy Post have one of their riders in this breakaway, their only rider in this breakaway even, including all of the groups behind, I believe, because I think they have missed the Wout van Aert group, and they're not in the Lenny Martinez chase. So EF are putting all of their eggs in Harry Sweeney's basket, And Harry Sweeney has moved all of the eggs in his basket forward and has put them all on the table. Jegat now in the pace line of the chase group, which is attempting to get back to Harry Sweeney. As we get a view of the sights of Pontarlier, the finish town of this particular stage. The Tour came there in 2001 on a stage won by Eric Decker. And that made me think, what happened to David Decker, who is now at Euskaltel Euskadi after an unsuccessful spell with Arkea B&B Hotels, who have Ewan Costu in this breakaway, and are still trying to get Mathieu Lebert across. Despite missing out on the Wout van Aert group, he looks to have slotted himself into the Guillaume Martin and Valentin Madouas chase, which does include Sergio Higuita, who is the highest in the general classification on that group, 15th on GC. But Harry Sweeney is nowhere near that position overall. He sits 37th. But right now, he does not care about the general classification. He is all in for the stage win. And he is going to try and fuel himself to the line. Multiple gels in his back pocket. And those are going to be very useful as aids to help him. Jake Stewart out of the saddle at the back of this chase group. And Israel Premier Tech without a win at this Tour de France. The closest they've come is through Pascal Ackermann, as Jonas Vingegaard has a mechanical problem, so will get himself a bike change. Stuffs the 2 bottles into his bottle cage. Christian Ehrmann unhappy with the Camera Motorbike's position there. But Vingegaard is back on the road. But Vingegaard is back in the convoy and will soon get to the peloton. Will they call anybody back? Or will Visma let Vingegaard do his own thing and make it back to the group alone? In the end, they've probably not got the capacity to try anything now, especially that the hardest climb of the day is over and done with, the Tour de Tézy. Pascal Inkhorn in the rotation of this chase group. He's got a countryman there in Frank Van Den Broek, but none of these guys have teammates. Kaden Groves has lost his Australian brother in Harry Sweeney, who's 16 seconds further up the road and is in an effort against himself right now, as well as against the rest of the breakaway. EF Education Easy Post on the team radio that are saying just that. Head down, Harry, we just go, says Charlie Regalis from the EF Education Easy Post team car. Four minutes 44 is the advantage for Harry Sweeney over the peloton. So the breakaway look like they are going to contest this. The gap has gone out ever since Wout van Aert has instigated the move to get into a chase and has caught Axel Laurence, who is the initial mover. So, right now, Harry Sweeney is going for broke. And Jonas Vingegaard has made it back to the peloton. They didn't send anybody back, I don't think. Victor Campenaerts is there to guide him back up the peloton if necessary. But Vingegaard is back on. Again, going to be happy, I think, with his second position. And it's Aero Helmet Simon Yates, who perhaps might have been one of the breakaway options for Visma Lease-A-Bike today. Instead, is in the peloton with Jonas Vingegaard. Attached to the wheel of the polka dot jersey is Tim Naberman of Picnic PostNL. Not a bad ride for him to be in this group, to be fair. But 49 kilometres remain as ITV cut to an interview with Oscar Onley. So I'll listen to this Oscar Onley yap in the background, and if he says anything of interest, then I'll bring it up on the live stream. But right now, Harry Sweeney is away at the front. A view of the fourth group on the road now, which includes Guillaume-Martin Guillaume and Sergio Adita, who perhaps would have been a rider to watch at the start of today. But Lenny Martinez requesting some assistance from the team car, and that fourth group is about to make it across. So, Onley questioning the move from Lipowitz on the Col de la Loze stage. But in the end, conceding that Florian Lipowitz has been the third best rider at this Tour de France. Kaden Groves is grabbing some nourishment from the Alpecin Deceuninck team car. They've got no riders in the group behind, so are fully reliant on Kaden Groves for the stage win if it does go to that, and I think it will because the peloton have no interest at the moment in chasing this group down. And it's a group of 12 that are chasing Harry Sweeney. Meanwhile, Sweeney's gap and the group of 12 chasing him goes up to the group including Wout van Aert. Sweeney, though, is holding the gap at 25 seconds right now, which is not really, I think, what he wants to be doing. Or what he hoped to be doing, in fact. Because the gap being held benefits any rider that wants to jump across, and it is still very much bridgeable, while Harry Sweeney expends energy in the wind at the front of the race. And as the wind rolls in, the rain does as well. A couple of spots on the camera, and it could be a worrying time. For anybody that is looking at the descent that is coming up. You have a brief false flat rise, and then it goes downhill properly for the last time during this stage. There are brief descents off the Côte de Longeville and then heading into Pontarlier. But this is a long and persistent one, at least in terms of this stage. Certainly not a mountain by any means, but is going to be a consistent downhill slope as the rain starts to fall indeed on the chase group. And now you have these wet, dry roads that have become a theme of the last couple of days at the Tour de France. We saw Primož Roglič taking no risks whatsoever down the descents yesterday, as Ivan Romeo gives Matteo Trentin a push to ensure that he stays at the back of this group, wondering whether he wants assistance from the Movistar team car. He looks behind himself, that seems to indicate that. And it's a bottle for Ivan Romeo. The rain, though, will mean that Sweeney is out of sight of the chase group, and perhaps out of mind very shortly as well. And Sweeney has hit out from a long way. Tim Wellens, what has he got planned? It looked like he had stage 15 circled many months before that stage began and exactly where he wanted to attack. Underlined ahead of the stage because he executed that plan perfectly. It was one attack that he needed, and it was one attack that he did to get away from the group. And once again, Jayco AlUla are reliant on the Swiss national champion Mauro Schmid to try and keep this gap stable, because Jordan Jegat at the moment looks like he might be riding into the top 10 of the general classification. So Schmid has to continue digging in and continue doing this very good ride that he has already done. But the joining of the two chase groups, the Wout van Aert group and the Sergio Higuita group, mean that Mathis Lebert is back in Group 3. Astana say, okay Vela, if you just speak to everybody, just give a good rhythm and keep a good rhythm in this group. So that is, I assume, towards Simone Velasco, who is already up the road for Astana, which is great because he's in my fantasy team. Meanwhile, one of my pre-stage picks is in this chase group. So that message to Velasco must have clearly been about Harry Sweeney's time gap, and that they must keep riding because they fancy that Velasco can take this in a sprint, clearly. He's got some stiff competition in Kaden Groves and Matteo Trentin with Jake Stewart there as well. If this whole group gets to the finish line together. But they believe in Simone Velasco, and you could argue that they have a right to, because he's had a very good year so far this year in the Astana team colours. Best results so far this year, you would look at his results and go for Liège-Bastogne-Liège, where he won that, incidentally, in a small group sprint for 4th place, admittedly, behind Pogacar, Ciccone and Ben Healy. But that was a big performance to beat the likes of Thibaut Nace, Andrea Baggioli and Danny Martinez in what was a reduced bunch sprint for 4th position. But a bunch sprint nonetheless, and a sprint that gave Astana plenty of UCI points in their battle against relegation. But Harry Sweeney's in a battle against himself, and a battle that he is winning over the rest of the breakaway, because 50 seconds now is the gap. And that is why Astana are worried, because Harry Sweeney is seeing the stage win get closer and closer to his grasp. Admittedly, still very far away, 44.3 kilometres to be exact. But the gap that he's opening is very promising. If you're a Harry Sweeney fan, which I am. A little bit Healy-esque. Much further than when Healy made his attack on stage 6 though. When he ended up winning the stage ahead of Quinn Simmons and Michael Storer. Michael Storer, who is in Group 3 on the road at the moment. Michael Storer's teammate, however, Matteo Trentin, is in Group 2. But Sweeney is now on the hoods and trying to get as comfortable and as aero as possible to open up the gap to Jordan Jegat and the rest of the breakaway. Jordan Jegat might be ruining not pacing with Harry Sweeney now. Of course, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but Jegat might be having a couple of sleepless nights if Sweeney goes alone and takes this. Right now, though, Group 2 dynamics would benefit Harry Sweeney greatly, and the gap continues to widen. It's gone out by another 3 seconds to 53 now. With the Hidita group looking like it's not going to make it across, 3 minutes and 45 seconds behind Harry Sweeney, and the peloton at 5 minutes. Well over 5 minutes, in fact, closer to 5.5. But Sweeney has flown the coop here. It helps Harry Sweeney, of course, that there are 12 different teams and 12 riders in the breakaway. And because of that, breakaway dynamics are much more likely because you've not got teammates that are willing to sacrifice themselves for you. It will be every man for himself in that chasing group, and Harry Sweeney is attempting to utilise that by going up the road and is doing a mighty fine job so far. I'm going to switch over to Pro Cycling Stats, I think, because this time gap is not updating. It should be double what it is according to First Cycling, so I'm going to go to Pro Cycling Stats instead and do a little bit of movement. There you go. And there, boom. I'll actually make this ever so slightly smaller. So I'm gonna mute up while I lock in because I'm not gonna pretend that I've not got my tongue stuck out right now, as I'm hoping to get this bang on and exactly what the size that I want it to be. There we go, right. And then I move it across, and then I move you there. Sorry, doing some interior design right now. This can go in to about there. Yeah, that'll do. Right. I feel a lot more comfortable with that now. There. So, Pro Cycling Stats are updating the time gap. They've got it at 50 seconds, and they've got the third group at 4 minutes, which is a little more like it compared to First Cycling, which means that I can get rid of that now and move this out wide. There we are. Cool. Right. Everything updated. Which means I will finish my spiel on yesterday's stage, because Pogacar was not your stage winner, and as he mentioned multiple times in his post-race interview, this guy was the strongest, according to Tadej Pogacar. Team announcement after the stage said, "I'm absolutely destroyed. I can't believe it. Already to win one stage in the Tour is unbelievable from a break, but now, from the GC group against the strongest riders in the world, it feels like I'm dreaming. I don't know what I just did. After the descent towards La Plana, we were talking on the radio. Tobias Foss was still there with me. I talked to Tobias and with Zach Dempster, the DS, on the radio. Today is the last mountain stage. I have no GC to ride for, so I'll try to hang on for a few kilometres on the climb. Then I'll see how the legs feel. I will see what I can do today. I started the climb and I was quite in control. I have no GC. Maybe they will look at each other. I'll just try it and not take no for an answer. It's Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard. Everybody knows they are the strongest in the world. They are almost aliens. Then, just as the human, I still want to try to beat them, and I can't believe that I beat them today. I tried not to look behind and just go as fast as I could. I did it, and it was enough. It's crazy. The first 2 weeks in the Giro d'Italia was really good for me, but then I got sick in the last week. Somebody crashed into me in the third week, and my knee was hurting a lot. I then got revenge to the finish in Rome, but I had better GC hopes than I ended up getting. So, to get revenge in the Tour with 2 stage victories is crazy. The first victory was already really special from a breakaway. Now it was from the GC group man to man, so it's unbelievable. I didn't look back, went all out to the finish, and that's all I was thinking about. It was all I could do, basically. After a Giro and a Tour, it's already a really hard season, but it's super nice and beautiful as Harry Sweeney is getting all sorts of corners wrong on the wet roads, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the only one. But Arensman, after a Giro and a Tour, it's already a really hard season, but it's super nice and beautiful. There are still a few months to go, but it's already unbelievable and really nice. It's another opportunity tomorrow. I told Tobias Foss at the foot of La Plana to swing off straight away, and that tomorrow is your day. And Tobias Foss did try and attack, but in the end, it's Axel Laurence who sits in the third group on the road, and is probably watching the stage win go up the road. Not necessarily with any of the 12-man chase that sits 49 seconds behind Harry Sweeney, but it could go to Sweeney himself, who may have lost a couple of seconds on that descent for a couple of mishaps and misjudged corners, hopping over some central reservation as well. But if you're in the peloton, you've just got to keep it upright, because the stage winner's gone up the road. Mauro Schmid's going to try and press on for the sake of closing Jordan Jegat and for the sake of Ben O'Connor's top 10 in the general classification. But everybody else bar Ben O'Connor and Mauro Schmid are going to want to just stay on the bike and not push things down this descent, because it is very greasy on the roads right now. 5 minutes 26 behind, though, are the peloton, and that is to Harry Sweeney, of course. Closer to 4.5 minutes compared to the chase group. Matteo Jorgensen, though, goes for it. In his wheel immediately is Jake Stewart. So Jorgensen and Stewart have attempted a bridge. Ivan Romeo himself is trying to get across to make it a group of 3, with Tim Wellens pulling the rest of the breakaway back to the wheel of Ivan Romeo. And then it will be Jake Stewart. $36.2 kilometres to go, though. And the peloton so far are making it round the right-hander that Harry Sweeney struggled on well. But Ewan Costew looks to have paid the price for the Matteo Jorgensen acceleration, because he now cannot follow and is the first rider to show some weakness at the back of the chase group. So Ewan Costew, after all the work he did for Kevin Vauquelin yesterday, is starting to feel the effects of that, you'd think. Meanwhile, Ivan Romeo has been reeled in. Matteo Jorgensen has been reeled in as well. But Jake Stewart's gone on a counter-offensive. Jorgensen is sitting on the wheel of Tim Wellens, who was looking to finesse and has actually ended up with egg on his face there, because now he's got to close a gap. But with 35.3 kilometres to go, Harry Sweeney will be loving all of the tension and the drama in Group 2, because he can just benefit by going at a consistent tempo, managing his effort, not consistently accelerating and decelerating, and this will give him great pride, knowing that the second group on the road is not cooperating 100% with one another. The problem now, though, is that the group has split in 2. So you've got Romain Gregoire, Pascal Inkhorn in the group, Frank Van Den Broek, Jake Stewart and Kaden Groves in a 5-rider chase. and then 7 riders behind that. So 5 riders, and all of which will really want to bring Harry Sweeney back because they all feel that they'll have a chance. They're not the best punchers compared to Tim Wellens and Matteo Jorgensen, but they can take it in a sprint if it is a small group. Frank Van Den Broek, very good classics rider. We've seen him at the Tour de France in breakaways before, taking Romain Bardet to a yellow jersey in last year's Tour on stage 1, going for his own glory today after such an impressive ride for Oscar Ronley on yesterday's stage. Looks like he's got a little more in the tank than Ewan Costiu. But this group of 5 are working incredibly well with each other. Jorgensen and Tim Wellens have finessed each other out of the stage win. And in the end, both of them have paid the price. Jorgensen and Wellens then dropped as Trentin, Romeo Velasco and Jegat try to bridge across. 30 seconds between Sweeney and the group of 5 that include Jake Stewart, Pascal Incorn, Romain Gregoire, Kaden Groves and Frank Van Den Broek. So both the Dutch riders are in there. But Gregoire and Groves especially will fancy themselves in a sprint. Pascal Incorn and Frank Van Den Broek, you'd think, would want to make the difference on the Côte de Longeville, the final categorised climb of the day. But Tim Wellens is attempting to pull this group back. Ewan Costiu has even overtaken both Wellens and Matteo Jorgensen and sits in a little bit of a chasse patate between him and the 4 riders in the rest of the breakaway that are up the road. Van Den Broek in an aero position at the front of the group. The gap is narrowing to Harry Sweeney, and now the worries will start to creep in for the Australian on EF Education Easy Post. He is going to be concerned at the standard of rider that are behind him, and certainly by the way they're all cooperating. Kaden Groves we saw getting a little bit sick of the lack of cooperation. Pascal Incorn as well, getting agitated. And Jake Stewart, who did a little bit of sitting on of Tim Wellens, finding him out that he was finessing for most of this stage. So multiple riders who were not happy with the cooperation in the breakaway, and they look like they've all clubbed together and decided to go on the offensive. Costiu now reeled in by Jorgensen and Tim Wellens. Jorgensen flicks the elbow, Wellens obliges to go through. Costiu, though, is just going to look to cling on to the other 2 riders, and the motorbike is heading off up the road because the gap is extending between Wellens, Jorgensen and Costiu and the rest of the breakaway, what we will call Group Jegat, which is only 10 seconds behind the group of Gregoire now. So the smaller groups are increasing the pace at the front of the race, and this is not a good sign if you're Jayco AlUla, because Jordan Jegat has multiple helpers now that are going to try and pull him back for the stage win. Velasco and Trentin, the 2 Italians, will be riding for the sprint to try and bring everybody back and capitalise in a bunch sprint situation. Ivan Romeo attempted to bridge across but did not have the legs. So Jegat's got a couple of comrades that he can work with. If they can make it to the group of Incorn and Gregoire, they will believe, because then they've dropped Tim Wellens, who was the main trouble causer, I think, in this breakaway. Jegat is a close second to Tim Wellens. But if Jegat gets it across, then he will certainly believe that he has GC in his hands. Especially as the kilometres continue to tick down. 30.7 remaining for Harry Sweeney at the front of the race. It will soon be that for Romain Gregoire's group, which sits just under 20 seconds down now on Harry Sweeney. And the catch, if they all keep working together, looks like it's going to happen. Romeo, though, big time trialist on Movistar, Spanish national champion on the road, and a representative last year, certainly at the World's Championships in the Spanish team time trial team. And the team, I think they called it a team pursuit event, where both the men's and women's went at the same time. Quite a fun event to watch by the side of the road, actually, as somebody who went. But somebody who's going for broke right now is Harry Sweeney. Sweeney's got 15 seconds. He's going to look behind him soon, and the group behind will come into shot. And he will hate to see that after such a large effort. This has already been a 30-kilometre solo effort. But right now, he's just got to adapt to the situation. Will not want to take it to a sprint with Kaden Groves and probably Romain Grégoire with Jake Stewart there as well. Currently, the Israel Premier Tech preferred sprinter of choice after Pascal Alpecin didn't deliver the results that they wanted at this tour. His one attempt at sprinting was the stage with the mass crash at 1 kilometre to go. The last sprint stage that was won by Jonathan Milan. So he never got the chance to show what he's got. He'll have the chance if they make it up to Harry Sweeney and his group. The weather looks grim, and it's going to be grim reading for Harry Sweeney when he sees the time gaps hammering down now. And was that a flash of lightning in the sky? I don't know. But Harry Sweeney is probably now being controlled by the 5-rider chase behind him. You can't really look behind him, but at one point the director sportif is going to have to tell him. But right now, Mauro Schmid is getting his head down and doing the best time trial that he possibly can. Because Jordan Jegat at the moment is 1 minute ahead of Ben O'Connor on the virtual general classification. So a firefighting job has to be done by Mauro Schmid, but at the moment he's running out of water. He's already used a lot to try and fight this fire for Ben O'Connor, and at the moment O'Connor's going to have to grab the hose and turn up the taps if he wants to retain his top 10. Because Jordan Jegat has something to ride for, and TotalEnergies will get on the radio to him. Ben O'Connor now is contributing and trying to help out his teammates to bring this group closer, at least. Of course, it's not going to be a typical procession in Paris. It's not totally flat, so there could be chances if the general classification contenders are close together to move up one position or move down one position if you're within single-figure seconds. But as of now, a minute is an unassailable time gap, you'd think, on the final stage. Sweeney, though, continuing to push on and might have a little bit of hope that the Jordan Jegat group has joined up with the 5 riders chasing. So now you've got a chase group of 9 with Wellens, Jorgensen and Costu, the only 3 riders that have missed it. And no matter what, this group cannot let Tim Wellens get back to them. Kaden Groves looking over his shoulder hoping for a pace, but riders are pulling out of the pace line. And Sweeney looks behind, realises what's behind him, but also understands that these guys are not working perfectly together. And if he can gain any time, he's going to have to do it now. Onto the climb then of the Côte de Longeville. And Harry Sweeney attacks it alone. He is going all in. He has used everything he's got to make this move and won't have much left in the tank by the time he finishes. But he's made an attempt to go for the kill, and it might just cost him. Onto the climb then. 2.5 kilometres, 5.5% average. You had a little precursor rising false flat before this to test the legs, but Harry Sweeney's legs are certainly being tested by Kaden Groves right now, who is chasing him down for Alpecin Deceuninck, who must believe that they've got a chance at the stage win if Groves can remain in this group. Jake Stewart, another sprinter, is now trying to chase down Groves, who has gone off on his own. The rest of the riders, as they get a little bit loose on that corner there, a bit of mud on the road, that could prove problematic for the peloton. But Groves, pacing himself on this climb and pacing very quickly up this climb, has caught and passed Harry Sweeney. Here's a replay of the mud on the roads, and Sweeney almost loses it. But Groves is on a mission up this climb. You'd think that it would be the likes of Gregoire or Romeo or Jegat that would make the difference. But rear wheels are washing out on these switchback corners. Jake Stewart is struggling to hang on at the back. That's the first sign from the sprinter that he's starting to struggle. Jegat as well is struggling to hold on after his efforts. Pascal Incorn too, as is Matteo Trentin. So this is thinning out the group and seeing which riders are the strongest over the steep percentages. Simone Velasco battling with the bike, but winning that battle at the moment because he's on the wheel of Kaden Groves. Then comes Romain Gregoire in the group, as the former European champion Matteo Trentin is at the back of this leading group, dangling off the rear. Right now, Stewart, Jegat are almost back with Pascal Incorn. The gap is probably about a bike length between Jegat and the rear of this leading group, which is easing off seemingly and taking the safest lines they possibly can through these corners to avoid washing out in the same way that Sweeney and Groves and other riders have done on the switchbacks. But Romain Gregoire says now's the time to go. The punchy rider from France on Groupama FDJ, who are so desperate for a stage win, is forcing the issue right now in the breakaway. Simone Velasco on the wheel, and then comes Ivan Romeo. Matteo Trentin using his experience perhaps to ride his own pace, not following the accelerations and decelerations in Group 1, but the latest acceleration, should I say, has come from Romain Gregoire, if I can put my teeth in. Kaden Groves back to the front, takes a bottle from an Alpecin Deceuninck Swanee, looks very much in control of his efforts at the moment with 1 kilometre to the top of the Côte de Longeville. Jordan Jegat is back in the group and will have a GC to pace for. You'd think with the tight corners and the slippy roads that Jayco AlUla won't be able to pull this one back very much on the climb. So they've got a lot of work to do on the descent and the valley roads to the line on what was supposed to be a transition stage and in the end has become its own test, both with the weather and with the profile. Because Kasper Asgren's attack at the start of this stage feels a long time ago, and there has been a lot of efforts put in by a lot of riders, and Ivan Romeo is the latest one to make an attack. Simone Velasco out of the saddle trying to follow. Jake Stewart gets into the wheel of the Astana man, but we've seen this before from the Spanish national champion at the Dauphiné. He managed to get away from an elite group of the likes of Harold Tejada and Mathieu van der Poel, and Jake Stewart knows this. He flies past Simone Velasco and looks to shut this down as soon as he possibly can because the alarm bells are ringing for Jake Stewart. Stewart, who can take this to a sprint and should fancy himself, is starting to tie up though with 350 metres of the climb remaining. He's gone from trying to get to the wheel of Ivan Romeo to trying to cling on to this group. Right now, it's the Frenchman, Romain Gregoire, that has closed this, with Kaden Groves on his wheel. This is a fascinating battle between all of these breakaway riders, and this is why I love breakaway racing at the Tour de France. 150 metres remaining. Romain Gregoire's got rid of a couple of riders, but they might just get back over the summit of this fourth category test. They will not care at all about the singular point handed to Romain Gregoire, because they're all in for the stage win now. Tim Wellens and Matteo Jorgensen are far behind. They have been distanced, and look out of this as Kaden Groves looks to counter-attack off the pace of Romain Gregoire. He sees an opportunity. The crisis bells are ringing for the rest of the breakaway, especially Jake Stewart, who's got his head down and is looking at his head unit. But he hangs on. Harry Sweeney could not do, though. He is off the back. And Matteo Jorgensen's group in the duo with Tim Wellens is only 30 seconds behind, so they're not down and out just yet. Enkhorn and Jegat trying to make it back across, but as of now, it is Romain Gregoire that is forcing the issue at the front, trying to reduce this group and increase his chances at taking the stage win. Gregoire, though, is away. Harold Tejada trying to get across to the wheel. You've asked, is the game good to play with friends? Honestly, I'm streaming in the Tour de France category just because it is the Tour de France that I'm watching. But I do have the game, and to be honest, if you've got online friends, it's good. If you want to play like share split screen or share play, it's not very good, to be honest with you. And in all honesty, if your friends don't have the game as well, unless you're all buying it together, I wouldn't buy it. Because the only way you can really play with friends is online, rather than like two controllers, because for some reason they've got rid of that. Perhaps with the new graphics update, they've got rid of it. So that's probably something to consider when attempting to buy the game, because they subtly got rid of that feature. I'm sure they'll bring it back in later games. I will say that the online mode is... Oh! Riders are spilling out. Ivan Romeo crashes. Romain Gregoire goes down as well. That was a nasty incident for Romeo and Gregoire. All of them are back on the bike. Velasco got held up in the incident. But slippiness on the corner, and Romeo pays the price. Romain Gregoire is struggling. He's got a rip in his shoulder. But no. Yeah, if you're doing it online, then I'd get it. But Romeo looks really bad. Totally ripped up. Bleeding from the elbow. It was Romeo that was sending it into the corner. Got his trajectory totally wrong. And in the end had to bail. Velasco, too, did not nail the corner correctly. Totally wrong line from Ivan Romeo, and he's paid the price. No problem, man. Whoosh. So yeah, he unclips, goes straight into the curb, and that's probably where the pain comes from. Velasco keeps it on the bike, but ensures that he stays up. However, all of a sudden now, the situation changes because Groves, Van Den Broek and Jake Stewart are away at the front, the three beneficiaries of this crash, who have managed to keep it on the bike and not get held up. But that was a nasty, nasty incident. And I don't think Ivan Romeo will be continuing. Pascal Encorn is trying to get across for Soudal Quickstep on his own, probably wondering what happened in front of him. He probably got the best seat in the house to that incident on the road, which you never want to see, but the wet conditions have played their part with 20 kilometres of the stage remaining, and Matteo Jorgensen and Tim Wellens might just be playing theirs. They're only 28 seconds behind this three-man leading group of Groves, Van Den Broek and Stewart, and Frank Van Den Broek has to be wondering how he wins this stage from here, because he's got the two best sprinters in the breakaway on his wheel. Only individuals now chasing on. Jordan Jegat attempting to get back to Pascal Encorn, who in turn is attempting to make it back to the front of the race. Velasco has almost joined up with Jegat as Jorgensen and Tim Wellens have made contact with Matteo Trentin, so they've got another rider to help them get back to the front. They are not down and out. They might be down by 30 seconds, but they are certainly not out of this race. Ivan Romeo, though, I worry, is going to be out of this race and will not be able to get to the line. He might get to the finish, but I'm concerned that he might withdraw because of the injuries that he's just sustained in that crash. Took a long time to get back on the bike. I still don't know whether he's on the bike as of yet. Gregoire certainly is. With the ripped up jersey, and now the helicopter camera is on him. In the convoy, including Israel Premier Tech and Groupama FDJ, but once again, a replay of the incident. And I think Gregoire was a little bit spooked by Romeo going down, as well as carrying a little too much speed into the corner. Probably a little bit of inexperience from both Gregoire and Romeo playing into that. But Harry Sweeney is going to be the next rider that Matteo Jorgensen and Tim Wellens are going to catch, with Matteo Trentin a willing helper in this group. Jorgensen and Wellens, though, 30 seconds down on Kaden Groves, Frank Van Den Broek and Jake Stewart. It's certainly a more experienced trio than the three riders at the front of the race. But Groves and Stewart would fancy themselves in a three-man sprint against Frank Van Den Broek. Not sure what the Picnic PostNL rider is going to be thinking at this point. But Pascal Encorn's only 11 seconds behind. And Van Den Broek probably wants a 33% chance at this stage, rather than a 25% chance that he'll get with Encorn. Velasco and Jordan Jegat stuck in no man's land a bit right now, because the leading trio are contributing with one another. And so are Wellens, Jorgensen and Trentin, who are about to catch Harry Sweeney, and is the next carrot on the stick up the road, if you will. Gregoire, though, is continuing to press on for Groupama FDJ. But up front, Groves, Van Den Broek and Stewart have 17.2 kilometres left of road to race on. Encorn at 9 seconds. Then comes the chasing group of Jordan Jegat and Velasco. And Romain Gregoire is making it up to Harry Sweeney, Tim Wellens, Matteo Jorgensen and Matteo Trentin to form a 5-rider chase. And all of a sudden, this third group on the road, probably fourth group if you include Pascal Encorn as an individual in Group 2, but the fourth group on the road is building up riders and building up firepower behind. Gregoire, though, bloodied, full of road rash, nasty cuts to the side of his body. As Jake Stewart is not happy that Frank Van Den Broek is letting Kaden Groves go up the road. And Kaden Groves says, "Thank you very much, boys. I'm going to go off on my own in search of the stage win." So Groves, possibly anticipating the attack from Frank Van Den Broek. It wasn't even an attack. He just rode off the front because Jake Stewart decided to freewheel. You can't blame that one on Van Den Broek, I'm afraid. Jake Stewart would dust him in a sprint, and I think Van Den Broek was expecting Stewart to follow. Stewart vice versa. Indeed, thank you Ned Bolting, that Jake Stewart did gamble on Frank Van Den Broek getting across, and in the end Van Den Broek did not blink, and Stewart has been left with pie on his face. And Van Den Broek continues to stick to the wheel of Jake Stewart, who is now almost being caught by Velasco, Jegat and Encorn to make their own group of 5, and the dynamics continue to change. But up front, Kaden Groves is hoping that the breakaway dynamics get worse from here, especially if the 2 groups of 5 join together to make 10. Ewan Costiou, though, well far behind and out of this. But altogether, you are going to have 10 riders attempting to bridge across to Kaden Groves, but not wanting to use up any more energy than they have to be able to win in a sprint. Kaden Groves probably now will hope that it doesn't go to a sprint, because he is spending all of his energy in trying to get the race win to go up the road with him. So Van Den Broek now, you'd think, is banking on the rest of the riders in the breakaway to try and bring him back to then make a decisive move. Groves, I wouldn't even say predicting the move from Van Den Broek, because he just rode off the front. It wasn't an attack whatsoever. And it might be the least wattage put into a race-deciding move from Kaden Groves. Jake Stewart is going to be ruining letting go of Kaden Groves' rear wheel. Mauro Schmid, though, pressing on and is going to be in a battle with Jordan Jegat, as he has been for the whole day. But the battle is going to wage on all the way until the finish line. He's going to hope that the peloton offer up a couple of riders to help him. He's certainly earning himself some credit with the way he's riding. But right now, Kaden Groves has over 30 seconds on the chase. 13.5 kilometres to go for Groves, who has decided against backing his sprint. Perhaps that's how he feels on the day, or perhaps he just fancies going it alone because he thinks he's the strongest in the group. With Tim Wellens and Matteo Jorgensen, though, chasing back, he might not be the most quote-unquote talented when the road goes uphill. But right now, the road will not go uphill very much longer. It will soon level off. There is a short false flat descent. And then it is totally flat heading into Pontarlier. So this is the last false flat rise that the breakaway has to deal with. And as of now, if any of the punchers want to make their mark on this stage, they're going to have to do it on this rise. And it is Frank Van Den Broek that's trying to go on the offensive. Flicks through Jake Stewart, who is, I'm sure, going to have a word. Van Den Broek's going to say, but you would dust me in a sprint. And Kaden Groves is gone. And the Group 2 dynamics are ensuing. Jordan Jegat is not taking a pull. Neither is Simone Velasco. And this is Kaden Groves with 12.7 kilometres to the line. Letting the win go up the road. It's not Kaden Groves letting the win go up the road. It's Kaden Groves taking advantage. But Jake Stewart, once again, not pulling through, is letting the stage win go into the hands of Kaden Groves, who right now is in an individual time trial effort of 12.5 kilometres that he has to complete. Luckily for him, he's got downhills to recover. And then just 8 kilometres of flat roads into Pontarlier to claim a historic first Tour de France win for him. And a third Tour de France win at this race this year for Alpecin Deceuninck with 3 different riders. It was Jasper Philipsen to begin with, taking the yellow jersey on stage 1 with the stage win. Then he had to abandon the race. Mathieu van der Poel on stage 2 took the yellow jersey from Philipsen, and then it was Philipsen who abandoned on stage 3. But Van der Poel took Alpecin Deceuninck's second stage and then had to abandon. Kaden Groves, hopefully for him, won't abandon, but will be taking Alpecin Deceuninck's third stage win at this tour. And after 7 Vuelta a España stages and 2 Giro d'Italia stage wins, Kaden Groves, similarly to Tim Wellens this year, will complete the Grand Tour trio of stage wins if he can hold off the rest of the breakaway, which I think he looks destined to do. Pascal Incorn, though, has been dropped, and Jake Stewart and Frank Van Den Broek are going together once again to try and get to Kaden Groves. But both of those will be wondering what happened for them to let Kaden Groves go. Velasco and Jegat trying to make it back across. But you've got Stewart and Van Den Broek who are trying to now form an alliance that they had just broken a mere couple of kilometres ago. But what a tactical battle this is, and it's a tactical battle that Kaden Groves has arguably accidentally ridden into pole position of. Matteo Trentin's gone pop though, he is out of the back. And as Pascal Incorn gets reeled in by Tim Wellens in the Belgian national champion's jersey, out of the rear goes the former European champion, Matteo Trentin of Tudor Pro Cycling, who will have to wait another day for their Tour de France stage win. But 11 kilometres to go, and Kaden Groves looks like he has this one in the bag if he keeps it upright. He's got 1 descent to go, and then flat roads to the finish. But right now, Frank Van Den Broek has dropped Jake Stewart. So Van Den Broek is attempting to bridge across alone, but he is going to have to bridge a massive gap. Stewart battling with the bike, but Frank Van Den Broek looks like he is in pursuit of Kaden Groves. So Van Den Broek, after doing so much work for the Brit Oscar Onley, might have ruined his relationship with GB by costing Jake Stewart, you could argue, a shot at the stage win. I'd argue that Jake Stewart cost the shot at a stage win himself. But I will definitely be keeping my ears open for what Jake Stewart will have to say after this race. The man from Coventry looks to be denied by Kaden Groves as things stand. But Frank Van Den Broek is looking to have a say. I think he's left it a little too late though, as Kaden Groves continues to press on, the Australian. Van Den Broek, good time trialist on his day, but Groves, a flat truck 2 times he's won the points jersey at the Vuelta a España, as well as just the casual 7 stage wins he's got in 3 attempts at the Vuelta. 3 attempts at the Giro too, and he's come home with 2 stage wins, including stage 6 at this year's Giro d'Italia, which he won in a sprint ahead of Milan Frittart. This time, it looks like it's not going to be a sprint. But Van Den Broek right now has to close 40 seconds on Kaden Groves in 9.2 kilometres. Groves starting to rock, but is riding like a man possessed. Romain Grégoire, the ripped up FDJ jersey of Romain Grégoire, is contributing in a group that has swept up Jordan Jegat and looks destined to sweep up Simone Velasco. Jorgensen, Wellens, Sweeney, Aincorn and Grégoire, though, have not had the legs today. Kaden Groves taking the fewest possible risks round the corners. Rightly so, especially after seeing what happened to Grégoire and Romeo. But this is the opportunity where Groves can afford to lose time on the descent, where the legs will have a brief period to recover. Whereas Van Den Broek and Stewart kind of have to send it round these corners and take risks. And the toss-up between risk and reward is going to be questioned for Frank Van Den Broek. It's going to be going through his mind. Because is he going to get any reward if he sends it down the descent? Because Groves has built up such a large advantage. It's 44 seconds. We've got a time gap to Frank Van Den Broek now. And Picnic PostNL might be going without a stage win at this tour. They'll be more than happy with Oscar Onley's 4th position on GC. But Van Den Broek, at the start of the Tour de France, fancied his chances for a stage win and is showing the form of a stage winner at the Tour de France and showing the legs of a stage winner at the Tour de France. But in the end, it's not just about having the best legs. It's about having the best tactical brain. And Van Den Broek and Stewart may have just cost their chances at a stage win. I'd argue even that Groves was the best rider in the breakaway on the day in terms of form, the way he's been chasing down moves and his performance on the Côte de Longivelle, the final climb of the day. But Stewart has given up on his chances of following Van Den Broek and has resigned himself to the group, including Matteo Jorgensen, who are not going to get back, I can tell you that. Tim Wellens attempting another finesse. Jordan Jegat says no thank you, who at the moment is riding himself into the top 10 because the gap between his group and the breakaway is 6 minutes, and Ben O'Connor shakes his head, also resigned at the fact that he is exiting the top 10. Gets on the radio, thanks Mauro Schmid probably for everything he's done, and now he's at the back of the peloton. Ben O'Connor seeing his top 10 position at the Tour de France slip away. Meanwhile, Jordan Jegat taking advantage, and TotalEnergies have played an absolute blinder on this stage. Not necessarily taking the stage win, but Jegat, doing as little relays as possible, is going to ride himself into the top 10 of the Tour de France overall classification, which at the start of this tour, I'm sure the TotalEnergies owners, DSers, everybody in the team would have shaken your hand off for a top 10. Got a stage win last year, of course, with TotalEnergies in the gravel, but this is a different beast. You've got to be on for 21 stages rather than just the solitary stage, and Jordan Jegat has quietly gone about his business and should end this Tour de France as one of the 10 best general classification riders in the race. Kaden Groves is not going to care at all about Jordan Jegat's situation though. He's got 5 kilometres left to ride. The roads are drying up. It's going to be much easier for him. The mental stress that he will be undertaking will reduce now that he's got no wet corners to negotiate. But Groves has 4,700 metres until the finish line, and he's got 47 seconds on Frank Van Den Broek, who needs a bit of a miracle now to shut this one down. The miracle might come from the group of Matteo Jorgensen, who are forming a pace line, but again, it's too little, too late. Stewart getting angry at Tim Wellens. At the end though, he is going to be ruining his own mistakes, because I fear that Jake Stewart right now has let Kaden Groves have this, and he had the victory not necessarily in his hands because it would have been a toss-up between him and Groves in a sprint. But he's turned it from a toss-up to no chance whatsoever. Groves will look over his shoulder and be able to see the group of Matteo Jorgensen further down the road, but I don't think he'll want to do that. He just wants to get his head down and cross this finishing line. He's got 3.6 kilometres left. And now the motorbike pulls alongside. Back on stage 15, it was the Belgian national champions jersey of Tim Wellens that was riding solo on the flat roads into the finish. In this case, Kaden Groves had the door open for him by Jake Stewart and Frank Van Den Broek. Held it open. Groves walked straight through it, said thank you and goodbye, and has gone solo to the stage win on this stage 20 of the Tour de France. So many teams were wanting stage 20 to be their chance to open their Tour de France accounts. So many teams have gone winless at this tour, but at the end it's Alpecin Deceuninck who look on their way to take their third stage win at the Great Race. And Frank Van Den Broek is not making any inroads into Kaden Groves' advantage right now. Round the roundabout goes Kaden Groves. Successfully negotiated. And with the completely dry roads, Groves is going to know that he can stay on his bike certainly, and he's got time in hand to take no risks at all. The Jegat group trying to finesse at the moment, with Velasco, Tim Wellens and Jordan Jegat figuring out who's going to blink first in this group. But in the end, Groves has kept his eyes open and has seen the opportunity and has taken it. Christoph Rudolph in the Alpecin Deceuninck team car, giving him all the motivation he needs. The 2 kilometre to go banner will help with that motivation. And it's a rising false flat for the final 1,500 metres. Kaden Groves won't care though, as long as he crosses the line in first. Rudolph giving him all the encouragement he needs, shouting from the team car. He's going to have a wry smile that will grow on his face the further Kaden Groves heads towards the finish line. But Van Den Broek is now losing time to Kaden Groves, and I think this is an emotional time loss rather than the legs, because he takes a look behind himself and he will see the group of Jordan Jegat only 8 seconds behind. Now for Van Den Broek, this is a race for second, and a race that he has to commit to, because he is not winning in a sprint with the quality of Romain Gregoire and Jake Stewart in this group. But also, he has cost his legs attempting to bridge to Kaden Groves in a solo effort, who is now underneath the 1 kilometre to go banner. It was a grey start of the day, And the end of the day is going to be grey too, not necessarily in the skies, but in the jerseys of Alpecin Deceuninck, who will take victory number 3 for them at the Tour de France, and it comes with a third separate rider. It was Jasper Philipsen on day 1, the Belgian. It was the Dutchman Mathieu van der Poel on day 2, and they've had to wait a long time for the third. But it comes via an Australian, another sprinter and another member of Jasper Philipsen's lead-out train early on in this Tour de France. He's got the chance to go it alone in the breakaway, and boy has he taken it. Kaden Groves will take another Australian stage win after Ben O'Connor on Col de la Loze. It's Groves who is victorious today. One more corner for Groves to negotiate. 100 metres now to go to the line, and Groves is going to win this solo. He will have time to raise his arms. He understands what he's just done. And at the biggest Grand Tour, Kaden Groves completes the trio. 2 stages at the Giro, 7 stages at the Vuelta, but this Tour stage will mean more than all of those for Kaden Groves. Frank Van Den Broek, though, is trying to ride his way into second position. Pascal Incorn's attempted to make a bridge solo, and he's got 500 metres to close Frank Van Den Broek. It's Dutch-on-Dutch violence in the final 500 metres of this stage. Jake Stewart's going to look behind himself. He's watching all 3 podium places now go up the road if he doesn't get a move on fairly shortly. He's backing his sprint, while Frank Van Den Broek is backing his time trial quality. Pascal Incorn looks over his shoulder, perhaps resigned that he won't get to Frank Van Den Broek in second place, and the Picnic PostNL rider will cross the line, second on the road. Will be disappointed that it's not the stage win. Pascal Incorn completes the podium as the sprint behind ensues. Romain Gregoire in his ripped Groupama FDJ jersey just about gets pipped on the line by Simone Velasco, with Jake Stewart finishing 6th. Kaden Groves, though, taking advantage of Stewart and Van Den Broek in the breakaway, holding off all of them solo. Tim Wellens perhaps did too much finessing on this stage. Didn't look like he had it in the sprint anyway. And Kaden Groves didn't need a sprint. Either way, Groves just looking to recover. I doubt he's ever won a stage like this on the big occasion before. He's won bunch sprints, plenty of them. He's won reduced group sprints, plenty of those. But I don't think he's ever won solo on the road with almost a minute's advantage on Frank Van Den Broek in second, who congratulates Groves on the stage win. So does Pascal Incorn. Harry Sweeney will be the next to offer a pat on the back. The fellow Australian in the breakaway. And it's his countryman who is victorious. And the clock starts because the group, including Jordan Jegat, were at 1 minute and 4 seconds. And very shortly, that clock will tick over, indicating that Jegat has wormed his way into the top 10 of the general classification for TotalEnergies. What a tour this is from the team. The wildcard team that have managed to take advantage of all of the chaos happening in the general classification. The likes of Onley against Lipowitz, Felix Gall riding for 5th to hold off Primoz Roglic and others. But Kaden Groves wins the stage, and Jake Stewart, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Israel Premier Tech bus at the end of this stage, because he is going to be fuming that he let Kaden Groves go. Either way, your top 3, Kaden Groves in 1st, Frank Van Den Broek 2nd, Pascal Incorn 3rd, Velasco 4th, Romain Gregoire in 5th, Jake Stewart 6th. But Groves had the time to raise his arms and be the stage winner. The peloton should come in all together. I will stay on stream until the peloton cross the line, and then I will very quickly cut it short there. But that was a very enjoyable watch for me. I love a breakaway stage, and this is exactly why I love it, because it's a tactical decision made by Stewart and Van Den Broek, both attempting to bluff each other, and in the end they did exactly that, because Kaden Groves went and took the stage win from them. But the clock ticks over. Jordan Jegat is in the top 10 of the Tour de France with 2 kilometres of the stage remaining, that a UAE Team Emirates led peloton will just ride home. Pat on the back from Paris-Pantra and a rub of the neck. Of course, former teammates at Decathlon, Age Desert, Ben O'Connor, visibly gutted that he's lost the top 10. And Paris-Pantra probably trying to offer some words of encouragement or apology. But it was a tough effort from Ben O'Connor and his teammate, Mauro Schmid, who is going to feel pretty aggrieved after all the work that he did, that it's not going to come away with anything from it. But I think Ben O'Connor will be ruining again in the same way that Jake Stewart will be ruining letting the stage win go up the road. Ben O'Connor might be disappointed that he didn't follow the offensive of Jordan Jegat and mark the TotalEnergies rider. But are we going to have a mock sprint amongst the peloton group? They've got 800 metres of the stage remaining. 3 riders in front of Tadej Pogacar, who you think is just going to ride this one in the yellow jersey. XDS Astana trying to move a couple of their riders forward to take the minor placings on this stage. Meanwhile, Jonas Vingegaard having a chat with a couple of teammates. Tom Schroyens being in this group must mean that the Wout van Aert group has been reeled in. And XDS Astana look to hit this one hard with Ballerini. Mike Teunissen is towards the front for them, trying to set Ballerini up for a sprint with 400 metres to go, and there's an incident at the back. Cofidis' tour gets even worse. Arms are thrown in the air. Tadej Pogacar is unhappy, chatting with Wout van Aert. Meanwhile, Mike Teunissen is trying to set up Davide Ballerini for a sprint to the line as Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe continue to push on. Ballerini attempting to sprint past Teunissen, and it's the Dutchman that gets the advantage on his own teammate. So Astana take the first 2 positions in the peloton. And I suppose that's why you watch the peloton go across the line, because you see incidents like that, which at a Tour de France filled with accidents, incidents and drama, that might just sum it up. Even during moments of peace, quiet and expectation that the peloton will just ride it in, crashes are caused. But Kaden Groves did not crash, and Jake Stewart might just crash out in the team bus after this stage. I hope that Ivan Romeo has not crashed out of the race, but I will give you an update on that in tomorrow's stream, because we've got Paris up next. Here was the profile not for today, that's stage 19. Here is the profile for stage 19, if anybody was wondering. But up next is stage 21. Monté-la-Ville to the Champs-Élysées, and we've got the Montmartre circuit ahead of the finish. A new attempt at a route from the Tour de France organisers. We do the Champs-Élysées passage multiple times, but then you go into a circuit that includes Montmartre. 1.1 kilometres, 5.9%, but it is incredibly narrow. So you've got to be at the front for those pinch points. And Tadej Pogacar has already ruled himself out of it. He said, "We have a good team for the circuit. but I don't feel super energized right now to think about Sunday's racing. It's a really hectic parcours, so it's going to be a tough one. We will see what will happen on Sunday. I'm obviously tired. It's not been an easy tour with people attacking me left and right from day one to the end. I've just got to be focused and motivated. So perhaps Pogacar might be letting one of his UAE teammates have a go at the stage win into Paris, but we will find that out tomorrow on this stream. So I will be there. We will do a tier list afterwards of every team's performance, every rider's performance at this tour as well. And it should be a load of fun, so I expect to see you all there tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, though. I'm going to go and put together all sorts of quotes from the peloton ahead of tomorrow's stage, and we will review those in a little pre-show before the stage begins. Either way, have a great rest of your day, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you tomorrow for the final watch-along stream of the year. All the best.